Hey everyone, welcome. Hopefully you can all hear me. Maybe you could just say yes if you can hear me. Awesome. Okay, good. It sounds like the audio is working, so that's great to hear. So welcome to tonight's video AMA. We are going to go ahead and get started in just a couple minutes, and I'll be also checking the Telegram group just to see if anyone has additional questions there. But please go ahead and post your questions, just on the YouTube comments, and I'll get them here and can feature them on screen as well. So for questions and any feedback, that'd be great. I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces, so this is really cool. Some people who've been following us in Telegram for quite some time. So thank you all for your commitment and your attention and participation. So let's go ahead and get started because I see some questions coming in. So Jotin asks, will you increase the APR in the future? So we're starting with 50% APR, and that could increase in the future. It could also decrease. So when we switch to RioChain mainnet, the APR will actually be determined by, there will be a set amount of tokens that get distributed every single day, or at least get added to the distribution contract every day. We are still determining whether to do it. We'll probably start it weekly and then might eventually switch it to daily staking rewards distributions. But basically these will be a set amount, and it'll just be based on how many people have tokens staked. And then it'll be based upon proportionally. So, if there's 1,000 total tokens going out per day, and if there's 1,000 people staking one token each, then everyone would get the same amount, right? But if people have different amounts, of course, it'll be proportional based on those amounts. Now, at the beginning, it'll be, sort of a simple staking. Eventually, we will be switching from a proof of authority consensus mechanism to a nominated proof of stake consensus mechanism. So it'll be a more complex, or at least the staking will go directly toward the on-chain governance. So, you'll be able to vote on your nominators, who you want to nominate for the nominated proof of stake. I think even in proof of authority, if I'm not mistaken, we will have that process as well to choose which of the nodes you would like to nominate. But at the beginning, they will all be paying the exact same rate, and should have basically equal token distribution rewards. So Sihe official channel asks, hi James, when new exchange announcements? So we will be announcing some new exchanges very shortly, probably announcing next week. So we're finalizing some plans with that, and we will be announcing very soon. So maybe we'll do a poll or something in our Telegram group and maybe on Twitter as well to get your guys' feedback and see which exchanges you think are coming next. When Binance, of course. So this question gets asked at least 100 times each day, probably every hour. But basically, we'll announce it when we can. That might be. Well, I don't want to give any hints. So yeah. Let's see. How does proof of authority work? So our CTO could give a much more detailed answer for this than I could. But basically, it's a series of trusted nodes. So proof of authority is a consensus mechanism devised, or the term at least was coined by Gavin Wood. And he is the creator of Polkadot. and one of the original co-founders of Ethereum. And so it's a consensus mechanism where you have a set of trusted nodes, which are all KYC'd, so you know who they are. And this basically, they have to be granted authority in order to make any updates to the chain itself. So it's essentially like a permissioned chain at the beginning. So it's a federated blockchain. And the reason for this is to increase the security at the beginning so that we can make sure the chain runs smoothly and it can upgrade very easily. So it does start off a little bit more centralized than we ultimately intend it to be. So over time, we'll increasingly create a more decentralized chain. So we'll have the switch from a proof of authority mechanism into a nominated proof of stake. So nominated proof of stake is pretty similar to delegated proof of stake as far as I know, but it's what the Polkadot and Kusama networks call this system. So you essentially nominate the nodes that you'd like to stake with, and those become the nodes that then validate. Well, basically the nodes compete for these validation spots, and then depending on the particular chain. So for RioChain, we are looking to target around 10 nodes at first, and then increase to around 30. So we're targeting about a 3 to 6 month time frame for the switch from proof of authority into nominated proof of stake. And we will have an NPOS testnet coming soon. So probably in a month or two, we will have that to also start testing out. So validators can kind of get their feet wet, play around with the RioChain ecosystem, and even earn some RFUEL rewards for being one of the early validators on the testnet that then they'll get rewarded with mainnet RFUEL. So we're super excited about that, and we've already had companies approach us wanting to become validators on the RioChain network because with the RFUEL token economic model, it's one that rewards the validators based on the amount of transactions they're processing and their uptime and everything else. So if the validator is proving to be very efficient and their computers are constantly processing transactions, then they're going to have much better rewards. And so the users will be able to switch who they nominate, similar to the Polkadot and Kusama network governance models. Can we store RFUEL as ERC20 on RioWallet, or must it be swapped to the RST88 version for RioWallet? So at least right now, you will need to swap it from the ERC20 version, onto the RioChain mainnet version, which is the RST88 token format. So this is what we call our standard, RST is basically Rio standard token, and 88 is the nomenclature we chose for that. So with this token standard, it'll be the same for RFUEL, for Ohm, as well as for other projects that build on RioChain. So we are incubating some dApps now with some entrepreneurs who we've known for a few years, and we're really excited to see what they're going to release in the next few months. Let's see here. So in the recent update, you mentioned about targeting the unbanked in India. Can you give any more info about the strategy for this and what the milestones are? Sure. So we've announced a partnership with a company in India called VALD. They used to be called Bank of Hodlers, but they switched their name to VALD, VAULD. And so they have really good on and off ramps for Indian rupee. So being able to purchase cryptocurrency for the first time using INR. And then also they have savings and lending modules, which we're looking into now as well to see if we want to incorporate those along with the ones we've already developed for RioChain. So we're super excited about India because it's a huge population, right? Over 1 billion people, and crypto is exploding over there right now. And we do have a lot of community members as well from India for both RioDeFi as well as, I'm a council member on MantraDAO. And we noticed there were a lot of Indian people as well on the MantraDAO side, perhaps because of the Ohm token, with mantras originating the concept and the word from India. So we're very excited about what can happen there because of the amount of development that can still occur in the blockchain space. Because even just until recently, I think it was March of this year, the Supreme Court of India overturned the ban on trading cryptocurrencies. I don't know the full legal details of how that whole process went about. And I know that there's been some talk about them further regulating cryptocurrencies potentially soon. So we're doing all that we can to work within of course all the confines of the law and in full compliance. And we've identified that Vault is a great partner for payments in India. So we're looking to basically, with this partnership, we can actually allow other developers who build dApps on RioChain to also have easy fiat on and off ramps for Indian rupee. So we're super excited about that. We are in the midst of hiring a country manager for India. So we're looking at candidates right now and want basically someone to spearhead our efforts there and really connect with other partners to grow the ecosystem. Let's see. So what's the next big milestone after the RioDeFi blockchain goes live? Do you have other dApps on the line waiting to build on RioChain aside from MantraDAO? So great question, Crypto's Chain. Yes, there are actually other applications that are on RioChain. They've actually been developed for the past few months. So two of those dApps are called BitPool, which is a blockchain-based predictions platform. And another one is KQJ, which is an e-commerce game where users can play a game, which is a game of chance, and then they can bid down the price of a Bitcoin for a chance to buy Bitcoin at a much lower price. So we're super excited. We've been working with those teams for, as I mentioned, the past few months. I think it's since May. And their apps are both in beta mode. They're closed beta at the moment. And there's even another app called Fans Predict. And so they're actually looking to, the studio that developed these dApps is looking to combine them into sort of a super dApp. So I won't share too many details as they're still not public yet about it. But those are the basic three that are currently developing on RioChain. And then we also have some additional ones that we've been incubating in-house for instance, Rio Finance. So we're going to be releasing more details about that in the coming weeks. So that'll be for payments, for investment products, and various things. So we're super excited to be unveiling that, like I said, in the coming weeks. This is a good one. So from JDS, he says, or she says, what in your opinion will be the biggest challenge moving forward? So personally, I think the biggest challenge for any new startup is in scaling the company. So we've now moved from, startup with, just working from seed capital. Now we've raised around $20 million, which we're using to expand the company as rapidly as possible. So we're expanding our number of developers. We're expanding our sales and marketing staff, our business development staff, our operational staff. We're hiring new graphic designers. We're expanding the partnerships and growing our presence both in Hong Kong and globally. So we're super excited to do that. And as a young company, we've been around about a year and a half, but now it's a matter of making sure we, of course, deliver on what we've already promised. So getting the RioChain mainnet out and RioWallet out before the end of this month, and also in the midst of doing that, hiring new people, so conducting the interviews, looking at resumes, getting the right people, and making sure that their culture fit and everything else with the company, and being able to do that in the world of COVID, where you can't always meet people in person, and it can be difficult to make those connections, whereas otherwise you might be able to fly them in or do it in different ways. So yeah, basically the issues of scalability of the company to match pace with the scalability of our chain. CryptoCito, great to see you as well. I see you sending greetings from Berlin, greetings from Hong Kong here. Can I store other coins around the Polkadot ecosystem in the Rio upcoming wallet? So the answer is you will be able to eventually, but at the beginning, no. So RioWallet at the beginning will just be for RioFuel, Ohm token, as well as the RioChain versions of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the ERC20 version of USDT. But bringing it onto RioChain, it would become the RioChain version of that USDT. And the reasons for bringing them onto RioChain are sort of there's many reasons, but one is that you can then interact with the dApps on RioChain. So with RioWallet itself, but also with Bitpool, KQJ, with MantraDAO, you'll be able to once they incorporate the various savings programs, the lending programs, you can then interact with them there. It's also so you can send the funds at the speed of RioChain, so that's within 2 seconds. And the transaction fees are much lower than on native chain. So 0.1 RFUEL is the transaction fee, which currently you're talking between 1 to 2 cents. Obviously, with a higher price of RFUEL, then that would be higher transaction fees, but still much lower than other blockchains. And actually, this can be adjusted downwards, especially at the beginning, because with proof of authority system, there's only a few nodes, and those are our ourselves plus our partners, and so we're able to adjust the gas fees down if that would be needed. But we do think that they'll be quite reasonable at 0.1 RFUEL for the base transaction for some time. Now, where it might be needing to be changed more would be on the smart contract or the variable gas for complex actions on RioChain. Let's see. So what partnerships you mentioned on this AMA description? So I think basically with the AMA description, we're not announcing so much new partnerships now, but talking about existing partnerships that people might not be aware of. So as I mentioned before, we have the partnership with Vault. We also have a partnership with MoonPay. So you can actually go to riochain.io/MoonPay right now and purchase RFuEL with your debit or credit card. And if you're in Europe, you can actually purchase RFuEL using a bank transfer. So we're super excited about that because this allows many more people to get into cryptocurrency for the first time, similar to how they would with a cryptocurrency exchange, but with the fiat on-ramp. So you can go in there, input your information. You have to do some basic KYC, which is handled by MoonPay, and then you can purchase RFuEL using your debit card or credit card. And we're working with BCW Group here in Hong Kong. They've been very helpful in connecting us with various payment integration partners. So they were the ones that introduced us to the people at MoonPay. They helped us connect with Vault as well, and they're advisors on our project. And we've known them actually for over a year now. So Calvin, our president, has known them even longer than myself. And we meet usually once a week, and then we're also talking every day to figure out what are the next steps for getting connected with global payments providers and mapping out our Rio Finance ecosystem. So they've been super helpful and instrumental in the strategic steps with our company. So we're very grateful to them. We're also partnered with SK Chain Advisors. That's our president, Calvin Ung, waving. I think they're going to grab some food. So the SK Chain Advisors, they've been helping us, especially with community management, with our presence on Twitter, and really just making the right connections with people. They're well connected with various influencers and they just have a lot of experience in the cryptocurrency space. We also have the 12 different VCs that you saw in our VC partnership announcement article. They've been very helpful connecting us in all sorts of places. So in the various countries that they're in, we've gotten connected with governmental officials who can help set up the fiat on-ramps in various jurisdictions. They've also helped us to connect with other media partners, with exchanges, with influencers, KOLs, etc. KOLs are key opinion leaders. And so we're immensely grateful. And plus, obviously they participated in our private sale, which was very helpful in getting us to where we are today. So we're very grateful for all of our partners, especially Hex Trust, who has been helping us from the beginning in regards to the digital asset storage, and they'll also be helping with the storage of RioChain assets. So basically how the generic asset bridge works for RioChain is that users can, anyone can deposit their ERC20 versions of the tokens. So let's say for Ethereum, right? You can put the Ethereum onto RioChain. It actually gets stored in Hex Trust in a custodial manner. And then the asset is then generated in your RioWallet. So then you can send it at the speed of RioChain and interact with all the dApps. And then when you want to withdraw that asset, you can submit a withdrawal request, and it goes through our generic asset bridge. Someone reviews and approves that, and then it gets sent back to the native wallet that the user would like. And so that's a bit of an overview of that. And so they have also helped store all the assets for both RioDeFi and MontraDAO. And they're leading digital asset custody provider here in Hong Kong. They have the Hong Kong license for trust companies, and they've been very helpful, hands-on at mapping out what we want to do. They've also helped to create new staking services for various assets that we've requested. So, definitely grateful to the people at Hex Trust as well. So what is your strategy for becoming a parachain on Polkadot? Will you also try and be a parachain on Kusama? So yeah, first we're targeting to become a parachain on Polkadot on the main network, and then we'll probably look at Kusama after that. So we'll be doing most likely an initial parachain offering, so similar to the other companies that are looking to host parachains. So we're still working on the economic model for that and what we think will be best for the people who choose to essentially participate in this with us. So we want to make sure it's a win-win for everyone involved, and that we can provide the best value to those people who are trusting us with their DOT to be this parachain. And another thing I think sometimes doesn't really get conveyed with RioChain is that we will be interoperable with the Polkadot network via either a parachain, or you can be a parathread, which is like you rent the parachain slots from someone else. Like if it were the case that we didn't get one of, I think they're doing 3 at first. So if we weren't one of those first 3, you can still rent the space on the parachain. You just pay that whoever is the parachain for that. So you can still send the transaction data up to the Polkadot network and benefit from the shared security of that network. But actually with RioChain, having done our token sale and moving into an NPOS system, we will have our own very robust on-chain governance process for securing the chain as well as validating all the transactions. So while we are definitely very excited about working with the Polkadot network and being fully interoperable there, we're also an independent layer 1 chain ourselves that can fully exist and have a generic asset bridge that doesn't rely on the Polkadot network. Of course, we are definitely going to be using the Polkadot network, But we have our own development schedule. We have our own pace. We are built on Substrate, so that was a framework created by Parity Technologies for interacting with the Polkadot network. So we find Substrate to be one of the best programming languages, or one of the best frameworks rather. It uses the Rust programming language, and we think this has a lot of benefits. Rust is very secure, it's fast, and it's a newer programming language. So it seems to be working quite well from our updates from our CTO as well as our developers. So we're very excited for that. And yeah, with Kusama, we'll also be looking at their economic model for the parachains to see what makes the most sense on that side. What kind of strategy is the team for referring people to stake RFUEL tokens? So I imagine this question is referring to affiliate programs. So if you can refer a friend, let's say, or refer someone who's willing to stake RFUEL and become a validator, is there some sort of incentive for that? So currently we haven't devised one, but we are looking into various models for referral incentives for bringing people on board to stake RFUEL. So we'll definitely update you as soon as we have something more concrete in place. I read I can get 50% rewards staking on MantraDAO at the moment. Will I get the same rewards when RioWallet is coming out? So yeah, when RioWallet first comes out, that's the APR that we're targeting is 50%. But as I mentioned before, there will be basically there will be a set amount of rewards per day that'll go out, or at least be accumulating per day, and then maybe they can be claimed like once per week for RioFuel tokens. So that will depend. The APR will actually depend upon how many people are staked versus how many tokens are distributed. So in the beginning, this could potentially yield higher than 50%, but we're also balancing that with the fact that we're auto staking a lot of the vesting tokens. So yeah, we'll have to see how the exact rate comes out, but certainly that's what we're targeting for this next month. So Baby Shark Doodoo asks, James, if mainnet launch, how about Uniswap delist? Will it delist? So we are planning to maintain the ERC20 version of RFUEL for quite a while. We don't have a set date for when we'll phase that out, but we really think it's important to, in the spirit of cross-chain interoperability, to continue interacting with the Ethereum network. I myself invested in Ethereum back during their crowd sale. I'm a super big ETH fanboy. Obviously, there have been some frustrations with, ETH 2.0 taking maybe longer than originally anticipated, but that's just life. I mean, in the development world, especially, some problems are just really difficult to solve, right? And especially when something's running full steam, it's hard to make any changes because so many people are using the existing code base, and you want to make sure that you integrate any updates to that code base in a very secure way that doesn't mess up the existing application. So, I think that's why Polkadot is able to sort of start fresh and be able to build in a more maybe nimble way. I guess it's yet to be determined how that plays out in the long run. But in terms of maintaining the ERC20 version of RFUEL, we think it's definitely a very important piece of the ecosystem for DeFi. So we plan on maintaining that for a while. So we imagine that it'll trade still at the same price as the RST88 version of RFUEL. Most of our exchange partners will be switching over to the RST88 mainnet version of RFUEL, although that migration process will probably take some time, and it'll depend on the exchange partner how quickly that they're able to make that switch. And so we're working with them very closely for that. But yeah, as I mentioned, we'll maintain the ERC20 version on Uniswap for the coming months at least. So Tony Montana says, when will RioCard be available? So RioCard is referring to the RioPay crypto debit card / credit card. Actually, it'll probably be a debit card. We've been looking at some credit card options as well, but probably start with the debit card. And we're targeting Q1 of 2021 for that. So we've been in talks with Visa and MasterCard service providers to be able to get a crypto debit card, and I think definitely by Q1 that'll be it, or during Q1 I should say, that'll be able to happen. So we've evaluated various options. We've also played around with our own options from other competitors. So I've been using the Crypto.com app for a while. I actually haven't been able to get the debit card yet, but that was due to me sort of moving overseas and stuff. So I'm based originally in the US, but I've been in Hong Kong for about a year now. And let's see. By the way, this has been really fun. About halfway through, I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll go past 1 hour. But just wanted to say thank you guys so much and gals, so much for your great questions, your engagement. I can tell, a lot of you have put a lot of thought and effort into these questions, and it's great to see so many of you really diving deep into the RioDeFi ecosystem and exploring what we're building. So I'm really, it makes me really happy to see this. Some of these questions. So obviously some of these questions I can't really answer. So like this one, right? What is your plan to push up the price? I mean, basically it's to build an amazing product, right? So we're definitely focusing on the mainnet version of RioChain, getting that launched along with RioWallet before the end of the month. We're also doing a huge amount of work on the marketing side of the business. So we're in the midst of hiring new people to assist full-time, but we've also partnered with some of the leading blockchain PR agencies, as well as marketing firms to help with more execution stuff. And our exchange partners have been very helpful in devising various marketing campaigns. So, trading competitions, AMAs, various staking programs on the exchanges, as well as some transaction mining stuff, and just sort of new ways for people to get exposed to and interact with RFUEL. Bitham Global had a learning program where people could answer questions to basically get free RFUEL. And so we're going to continue these types of efforts with the exchange partners, as well as with the through the marketing channels, so through Twitter, through our Telegram group, through YouTube. So we actually just started doing weekly video newsletters on YouTube, and we've already gotten a few hundred subscribers. So we're going to do our best to get that number up into the thousands very soon and continue growing our community, because that's ultimately what makes any company successful, is having a great community of people that are committed, particularly in the blockchain space, right? Because it's about the network effects, right? So, our vision is to become a fully decentralized company over the next few years. Now, the way we work, in order to make DeFi services accessible to everyone, which is our vision, we need to actually work with the traditional financial system. So we have gotten various licenses. So we're licensed in Estonia for cryptocurrency, digital wallets, and exchange fiat to crypto transfers. Transactions, so we can actually have that fiat on and off ramp in a legal and scalable way. And we've also applied for the Payment Services Act license in Singapore under Rio Technologies PTE Ltd. So you can actually find us on the Singapore MAS website. So we're working with the monetary authorities there to make sure we fully comply with all the existing regulations. And this includes things like making sure you follow the anti-money laundering procedures, that you're doing checks on people's wallets to ensure that the funds are clean, that so there's transaction monitoring software. We're also working with providers of KYC services and we've implemented our own in-house policies for that, for the exchange side of the business. So we're definitely looking to build a broad ecosystem that spans the world, because we think crypto should be able to be used for payments. That's sort of the original intended purpose, and obviously it's been used for a lot of other things. Like decentralized finance is, to me, the best use case of crypto, because it is this idea, which is sort of an old idea, that you can put your money to work for you, right? You can sort of lock it up in these protocols, just like you would save money in a bank. You can earn staking rewards, or interest rates, right? And so you can get your money working for you, and then you can loan that money out. But instead of having to go through a bank or an intermediary or a third party, now with DeFi, you can generally go peer-to-peer or peer-to-contract, like peer-to-smart contract. And so this enables much more efficient financial payment rails and ways of earning interest, right? Because unfortunately, with central banking around the world and government control of money through fiat currencies, this has led to a massive decrease in the savings rates. So, in the US, where I'm from, savings rates are generally the highest you can get is around 1%, maybe 2% with a certificate of deposit or something, for a very short-term thing. But yeah, I think this is ripe for disruption. In Europe, there's negative interest rates, so you're actually paying the banks to store your money for you, which they then loan out and make interest on. So to me, that's absolutely insane. I think the system needs disruption. It's ripe for disruption, and so we're looking to do that by having various savings programs, lending programs, and payments programs. So making it very simple for people to easily send money abroad through various fiat currencies and connect this sort of old money system into, let's say, the new money system of digital currencies. So are there plans for Rio Exchange to support leverage trading or margin trading? So at the moment, Rio Exchange is mainly going to be used for the fiat on and off ramps of the RioDeFi ecosystem, as well as to be a first exchange listing for all the projects that build on RioChain, and especially the ones we help to incubate. So that's going to be simple for them to get listed, and we are connected with other exchanges through a liquidity provision. So the back ends of our order books are tied with other exchanges to enable much more order book depth for the main assets like Bitcoin, Ethereum, USDT, etc. And so at the moment, we don't have direct plans to support that. However, we do have the technological ability to support that with both margin trading and futures trading. So yeah, we could support that in the future, although there are not plans to do it at the moment. Let's see here. So AD Cole asks, what are the future plans after the mainnet is done? So we'll continue to expand our partnerships, our marketing, and making the mainnet even better. So doing the incubation of various dApps building on RioChain. We'll also be constantly enhancing the functionality of RioChain. So the mainnet that'll be launching this month is version 1, but of course we need to continue developing it to improve the TPS, because while we think up to 3,000 TPS is great, obviously with Visa and MasterCard hitting I think around 50,000 TPS or 55,000, something like that, blockchains still have a long way to go, and so we think the Polkadot network I think is planning to eventually get over 100,000 TPS. I think they've even said potentially up to 1 million. So we want to make sure that we also continue to iteratively improve RioChain to make it faster and more scalable. So just making sure that we continue to upgrade that, and then also getting Finance out there. So working with the various partners for the exchange side of the business, continuing to get new banks to accept crypto to fiat payment rails, because it's not always easy to work with banking institutions. They sometimes have been hesitant to interact with companies that deal with cryptocurrency. So we've been grateful that we have gotten banking partners online, but there's definitely a long way to go there. So the onboarding of various fiat currencies. So we were looking at various options for how to get even more fiat currencies in our system. So right now with MoonPay, though, they accept over 50 different fiat currencies. So that's great. But of course, over the long run, we also want to make sure that we can lower the fees as much as possible. Because using a credit or a debit card obviously entails a fee. So with MoonPay, you can use bank transfers in Europe, but not currently in other places. So we want to make sure that we continue to look for ways of getting banks from other jurisdictions to be able to interact with Rio Exchange, RioChain, and continue to improve on that front. Plus, with Finance, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be doing a lot of various things related to the financial transactions. So that includes potentially like some investment products, which I'll be able to announce more details on that in the coming months. And of course, the RioPay ecosystem. So trying to get more merchants to be able to accept cryptocurrencies as payments. And of course, on the merchant end with RioPay, they'll actually be able to receive in fiat currencies. So you can send Bitcoin, but then they will receive, USD if they want, or whichever currency that they choose. Let's see here. RFUEL go to $100. Yes, that is the long-term vision. But obviously, based on market cap, I think it's going to be a while before we hit $100. Let's see here. Oops. So will the card get a similar tier system as Crypto.com and Swipe? Please make it metal. So yeah, metal cards are pretty cool. They do increase the cost though. So we have to weigh the trade-offs. I guess if we have a multi-tiered card system, then probably the premium tiers could have a metal card, whereas the lower tiered ones would have plastic. Basically, with making DeFi accessible to everyone, we also want to make our payment rails accessible to everyone. And so the more it costs to produce, obviously that's going to make it so less people can have access to that card. However, with a tiered system, yeah, you can have kind of a pick your own price and pick your own option. So we definitely would love to have the VIP tier options that Crypto.com and Swipe have. To be able to give people access to various types of cards. Why was RFUEL released at the beginning almost simultaneously in several markets? So, maybe this was not the best decision, I guess, but, I think what we wanted to do and what we did do was provide as much liquidity as possible for RFUEL from day one. So, working with top exchanges like OKX, Bithumb Global, and Poloniex, and really just getting RFUEL out there so as many people as possible could trade it. Uniswap, we were the number 3 in volume on the first day. Of course, with the IDO, there was a lot of buzz and excitement around the project. So we felt that there should always be options for buyers and sellers to be able to interact with the ecosystem. And so we made RFUEL available on a number of exchanges. I think there's 8 different exchanges on day one. Now, some of those exchanges actually we didn't know about ahead of time. They actually just listed us, because they thought RFUEL was a very hot project, and they wanted to give their traders access to RFUEL. So that's also we were surprised by a number of the exchanges as well. So that's always a good thing. It shows that your coin is really well regarded in the ecosystem, and unfortunately, in terms of the pricing, right, we did our token sale during a very bullish cycle in DeFi. So we started our token sale for the private sale. It was starting in the middle of August, and we concluded the public sale with the Uniswap initial DEX offering on September 28th. So it was about a month and a half from beginning to end. And the DeFi markets looked a lot different at the middle of August. That was sort of when SushiSwap was taking off, and a lot of these yield farming coins started booming. So you saw a lot of money pouring into DeFi. You were hitting new all-time highs on a lot of tokens, and this led to a bullish cycle, right? But then subsequently, toward the middle of September, it started moving toward a more bearish one, and so we saw prices across the board from most DeFi projects falling somewhere between 50 to 80%. So we as well, once we launched, I think people took profits very quickly. For the people that were actually, I think pretty much everyone had a chance to do that. That within the first 24 hours of trading, the token price varied. I think obviously it went up during the Uniswap IDO, and then mostly hovered between 20 to 25 cents during the first day. And so I think a lot of people just, especially saw that if their other coins in their portfolio are falling, then it kind of makes sense that you'd want to take some profits, or at least sell some tokens to kind of hedge your risk. And so I think that's what a lot of people did, and obviously that can create cascading sell pressure, which, given that the market was a little bit more bearish, if you don't have that corresponding trading buy side demand, then that's going to lead to a decrease in price, right? And so we saw that, and I think a lot of cryptocurrencies in the space, very, very well-established projects, saw the same thing. I really enjoyed a post by FTX's CEO, Sam Bankman-Fried. He laid this all out, and I'll share it afterwards in the Telegram group. Other people had shared it in our group, and I thought it was just a spot-on analysis of the market. It's like, there's a lot of factors at play. All you can really focus on as a crypto company in the space is 2 things. You can do your PR and marketing, making sure you have a lot of announcements, news, things happening, right? Things to keep people excited. But ultimately, it's based on the second thing, which is building the product, right? Fundamentals. So, you got to work at that. And it's something we've been working at for a year and a half now, with the development starting around April 2019. So, RioChain has had a lot of work put into it to become what it is today. And so we only started raising money right before our anticipated mainnet launch. So as I mentioned, we started the fundraising cycle in the middle of August, and then we completed it at the end of September. And so now the mainnet's launching at the end of October. So it's a very, very short cycle between that time. Because why? Well, I was a crypto investor starting in 2013 when I bought my first Bitcoin, and I invested in over 40 different ICOs between 2016 through 2020 even. And what I found frustrating at times was, this big gap in between when I would invest in a project or purchase the tokens, maybe is a better word because, speculative, right, to consider investments. But in any case, when I would purchase these tokens, sometimes there would be a year or more in between when I purchased the token and when the token would be tradable. And so I thought that was quite a frustrating experience. And that was something that with our project, RioDeFi, I wanted to make sure that there was liquidity very soon after the fundraising period, because it's just fair, I think, to investors and your purchasers, when possible, to provide those secondary market options. And so we wanted to do that, and that's what we did. Whereas back when Ethereum first came out in 2014 is when they did the crowd sale. It was, I think, around June or July, and it was about a year later before you could trade Ethereum, or even before there was a wallet to hold your Ethereum in. And then, of course, it took a little bit longer to be able to trade that Ethereum on exchanges. So, obviously the space has changed significantly between 2014, 2015, and 2020. We're happy to be part of that change, and to, it's been great to see the cryptocurrency markets really mature a lot over the past 7 years. So what about a virtual card instead of a plastic card? Saves costs for Rio and is convenient for users. Yes, absolutely. So we will also have this option for online payments. So basically the merchants can accept digital currency payments through RioPay, and the users can go directly through RioWallet to make those payments. Is how we're sketching out the ecosystem. So with this, it'll enable the ability to have pay with crypto options without needing a physical card. So in the long run, what we're targeting is something like Google Pay, Apple Pay, WeChat Pay, Alipay, these sorts of payment options, which generally you just hold the QR code up, and a person with their POS system is able to just scan that QR code, and it sends the payment straight away. Now, usually those use a debit or credit card, which could be either physical or digital. So similarly, with your RioWallet, you'll eventually be able to scan a QR code at various participating merchants to then pay with your cryptocurrency. Fire, 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 rocket, rocket, rocket. Thank you very much. Yeah, we are super excited to be continually developing and creating an ecosystem that people can be passionate about. Why are we doing what we're doing at RioDeFi? It's because we ourselves have been in the cryptocurrency space for a long time. Calvin Ung has been in space for about 4 years, as well as Stefan Laurent, our CMO, Katerina Volkova, our vice president. We've all been in the space for quite a while. And what we realized is that there are still a lot of problems in cryptocurrency that are preventing it from reaching mass adoption. One of those key problems is the fiat gateway, right? Moving fiat currencies into cryptocurrencies for the first time can be difficult. And sometimes it can be even more difficult turning them back into fiat currencies to be able to spend in the real world, right? Because once you've made all these great yields through various DeFi protocols, you can do it in a more conservative way using stable coins, which that's what we're really excited about, just using stablecoin backed systems, using Compound, MakerDAO, MantraDAO, etc., to generate yields, and then be able to use those stablecoins to convert to your local fiat currency to be able to spend, right? And so being able to create a seamless ecosystem where you can stay within one application and one framework to be able to do all that is something that hasn't really been achieved super well yet. Although a number of parties are definitely making a lot of progress on that, including Binance, including Coinbase, working with various merchants and payments providers to make it a more seamless experience, right? But I think the space still has a long way to go. And there's also the financial services. So, your bank can do a lot more for you than just the payments and just the, savings and loans. They also have, various financial products that you might be able to access, like certificates of deposit, like, there's obviously investment banks that can do various securities and things like that. So, we're looking into all the options for the future. We see ourselves as more than just a blockchain company. We're essentially a digital asset management group. So, being able to move beyond blockchain and be able to compete with traditional finance while working alongside of it is, we think, the best move for the future. As per the expert, it's still yet to see the big wave of DeFi. What's your point? So yeah, I think there is a lot to go in the DeFi space to make it more accessible to the masses. I read a pretty good article recently that was talking about these different phases of DeFi and how we're seeing these experiments in yield farming and generating returns. Some of them are more sustainable, like the stablecoin backed ones, using a variety of both CeFi and DeFi lending and savings programs. Then there's the more risky ones, the experimental ones that have these various, food coins and things that are tied to dexes. And, some of those make a lot of sense though, actually. And so obviously do your own research and proceed with caution when doing anything with digital currencies, and especially with DeFi. But I think the next evolution of DeFi will be with institutional money, using DeFi on the back end to generate sustainable yields in a scalable way that can connect with fiat currencies. And so that's what we're looking to do, is to really create the most secure, scalable, and sustainable ecosystem for DeFi yields. Because if we can get interest rates even just at 3% minimum, but upwards of like 5 to 7%, now you're competing with the entire global financial system, because banks can't really do that right now for their clients. So being able to do that in a way that's safe, secure, transparent, and insured, that's the big play here. Elbow cough. Nice. So everything in DeFi is plagued with security threats. How safe and what is the endurance of RFUEL? So great question, Lexaju. And I would say that, of course, anything could happen in the ecosystem, but we're in it for the long run. So we've put a lot of work in making sure that RioChain is very secure. So we've had our core runtime modules audited by CertiK, which is one of the leading blockchain security auditing firms in the world. We've also had the RioFuel smart contract audited by Slowmist, which is a blockchain security auditing firm as well. And so we're very happy about our partnerships with both of those firms. And basically, that was to show that we take security very seriously. We've also had RioWallet, both the mobile and the web versions of RioWallet, penetration tested by CertiK. So this is a further level to see, not just is the code good and does it operate how it says it should, but can it be, penetrated by hackers? And so basically we passed those penetration tests, and so we're following. These, obviously there's always more audits and things you can do for security. So we're taking an iterative approach in order to make sure that when we roll out RioChain, we roll out things in phases. So this sort of phase development where there's always plenty of time to have testing to a very adequate level, which is why we're starting with the proof of authority mainnet. And we've already had a proof of authority testnet since April, and we've had, I think, over 20,000 transactions to date on that testnet. And so we've proven that the chain works, that it's scalable, and that it has the appropriate runtime and uptime. So, moving from that and then having an NPOS testnet, testing that out for a few months to make sure not only is it secure, but does the economic model also make sense from a financial standpoint and from a security standpoint, right? Because with proof of stake blockchains, and in Rio's case, it'd be nominated proof of stake, there's economic game theory considerations. So we're also evaluating those. So this is something we take very, very seriously. It's of paramount importance because, when you're dealing with people's money, it's important to make sure that that money is secure. So that's our stance with RioDeFi and with RFUEL. And so, in terms of endurance of RFUEL, I can't predict the future, but what I can do is promise that I will commit myself to working hard every single day to make sure that the RioDeFi ecosystem is one that lasts for years. We're shooting for decades, right? Because we think, Rome isn't built in a day. It takes a while to develop good products. That's obviously why we've been developing it for over a year now. And we think that, blockchains will continue to grow and evolve, and we aim to be one of the top 10 cryptocurrencies globally within the next 2 to 3 years. So, this isn't something we take lightly. As I mentioned, all of us have been around the space for quite some time. We've had a lot of time to learn, to experiment, to see what works, what doesn't work. And look, we're not doing this by ourselves. There's no way anyone can do what RioDeFi aims to achieve. It can't happen with just us, right? So that's why we need the help of you guys, our community. That's why we're working with so many different partners in the industry. We don't think it makes sense to try to build everything from the ground up, build it from scratch, right? That's why we're using the substrate protocol, because it gives us a framework to start from, and then we develop on top of it, and we iterate, and we create new modules, and we create things that anyone in the Polkadot ecosystem can use. So that's what we're really excited to continue doing, is building tools that are useful, not just for RioDeFi, but for all blockchain developers. With the cross-chain interoperability, it's called cross-chain DeFi or CrossFi. It's this kind of new trend that's emerging. We think this is absolutely the future of blockchains. It's the furthest thing you could get from blockchain maximalism, because we see that each blockchain has its own particular strengths, its weaknesses, and so it's best if you can actually tap into the strengths of each blockchain and kind of let 1,000 flowers bloom and see what happens. So you test out, you iterate on these various protocols, and then you connect them together, right? Because right now, as decentralized as we all like to think that blockchains are, they're also siloed. And in that way, it creates a little centralized ecosystem, right? Where the blockchains don't talk to each other. So you have these little communities, and then they tend to fight each other a little bit sometimes. So you have people like this blockchain group, maybe the Ethereum people don't necessarily always like the Bitcoin people, and they fight. And then, the Ethereum people sometimes fight with, whoever, right? We don't think that's how it should work. We think, hey, we're all trying to build something cool together. Let's all work together in a collaborative, cooperative way, understanding that there's various strengths and weaknesses of these different ecosystems, and let's leverage the strengths of each, right? Let's leverage the communities of each. If you've been in this community for like 3 years and you're really committed to VeChain, right? Great. Let's find out a way that we can bridge between VeChain and Ethereum and Polkadot and make those systems work together, because someone's going to do something cool over here on Neo, and that might never have been done before, and then WanChain's going to do this thing, right? So you have all these various things. Like I personally had purchased some Tezos back during their crowd sale, and they were one of the first to have a delegated proof of stake system that worked well, and they had scalable on-chain governance. They were able to have sustainable staking rewards. This was really cool. obviously they had some governance issues at the legal and foundation levels, but the blockchain governance actually worked quite well. So it was kind of interesting to see how those two things, went hand in hand, and how they were able to overcome those challenges and become one of the leading blockchain networks globally, right? So I think it's important to try a lot of different things and to just continue experimenting and developing. We're all innovating together. So I think that's something that's important to remember. And please be patient with your, I know a lot of you guys always want to see the price go up, right? Like, so do we. It's not like we don't. Like, obviously our tokens are vested, right? We don't even get our tokens for as the team and advisors for 6 months, right? So if the token price goes to zero, like, that's not good for us either, right? So we did it that way to have fully aligned incentives, right? We work with our community. It's a joint effort, a co-collaborative and co-creative effort. So I'm very grateful because so far you guys have been awesome, really sharing with me a lot of helpful tips and feedback and things that we can do to improve our ecosystem. You put me in touch with various industry partners and marketing partners and AMAs and everything else. So definitely super grateful for all that, and continue to give us feedback. We're very open to it. I think for those of you that were involved with MantraDAO, we had that AMA with myself, John, Will, Stefan, and Rodrigo, the 5 council members. And we're totally open to this kind of thing. Like, we know we make mistakes. We know we're not going to be perfect. I don't think anyone on this earth ever is, right? But we're willing to learn from our mistakes and make the most of that, right? And so, just always let us know. We're very down to earth people. We're open to all of that. So just a quick spiel about that. Let's see. Hopefully more retailers are going to accept cryptocurrencies as payment. Travala.com is a good example. I used it and paid with Digibyte from my DGB wallet. Things like that can drive adoption. That's really awesome, Anders. I actually hadn't heard about that integration with Digibyte to the Travala.com. So I think these are absolutely the kind of use cases that are needed to happen in the world to make blockchains more able to be adopted, blockchain technology to be more adopted. I think, what'll happen with blockchain when it's super successful is that it'll be something like, the email protocols that, they just, like, who knows how TCP/IP works? Like, you don't really think about that. It's just something that happens in the background that, the average person doesn't need to know or care about. You just know that you can send a message globally and you click a button and it says send, and the other person receives it in their inbox, right? That's how blockchain should be too. You don't need to understand how hash functions and nodes and all this stuff. You don't need to understand how that works. Obviously, it's great if you do, and especially if you're gonna speculate on cryptocurrencies, like, that's probably a good thing to know. But if you're just a person who wants to send a payment, you shouldn't need to know any of that, right, to be able to do it effectively. And so that's why with RioWallet, we're making it so easy that even a grandmother can use it. That's our driving tagline to constantly make sure that what we develop is something that's simple and easy to use. So you said about fiat. What about Indonesian fiat, like IDRT or BIDR, Binance product? Do you have a plan about Indonesian users? So yes, absolutely. In fact, one of our investors, MapleBlock Capital, is very influential in Indonesia and has a strong investment portfolio in that country. And so we're super happy to have them on board. They've already helped connect us with people who are working on Indonesian rupiah integrations and getting the appropriate licenses that might be needed for various things. Also with MoonPay, right now you can actually go to RioChain.io/MoonPay and you can use Indonesian rupiah to purchase RFUEL. So that's actually something that can happen right away. Now, obviously there's a KYC process, and sometimes there might be issues depending on the form of identification used or whatever, but the MoonPay team is super helpful with handling any questions you might have. Sometimes it's not actually an issue on the KYC. Sometimes there are issues with like the banks. So the bank might not accept your, you might say, I want to buy this cryptocurrency, and the bank just blocks the transaction for whatever reason. So we have seen that happen with some customers, with certain banks. So obviously we want to do the most we can to make that those issues go away. So actually in the future with Rio Finance, this is something we're very much looking at, and as well as Rio Exchange, to make it so that even if the bank would otherwise have an issue, we want to make it so that the banks don't have any issues accepting fiat currencies in order to be able to purchase cryptocurrencies. So we're doing our best to make sure that we can resolve those as best as possible in the future. A good wallet that works with daily use cases is probably more sustainable in the long run than all the different crazy farming products that are popping up everywhere. I totally agree. They're fun though. I haven't dived deep down the rabbit hole yet, but I think there's some really interesting, farming options out there. Some of them do make a lot of sense. So I would say, it's good for if you know what you're doing, and if you're able to get in early on some of those, it can be beneficial. But some of them are just outright scams, right? They just completely run away with people's money. That was the intention from the beginning. And it's very hard for a normal, retail person to understand the differences. I mean, it's even hard for developers and crypto people that know what they're doing to understand the differences, because sometimes the code is, it's really obscure, or they've hidden the parts that make it unsafe, and so they're able to just kind of run away with people's money at some point. So yeah, I think it's a lot of risk, but I think there's also some good ones out there. You just have to be very careful. And in terms of for most people, I would say just if you're looking for long-term sustainable wealth generation, then you're probably looking at things more like, the crypto.com types of apps, the RioChain and RioWallet types of apps that have, just consistent, steady cash flow based on actual savings and lending products, which, have real demand, real business. I mean, that's what banks are, right? Banks are savings and lending institutions that are able to generate yields for people in a long-term sustainable manner. At least they used to be able to generate pretty good yields for people in a long-term sustainable manner. Those have since gone down to zero almost. And so, so we're trying to restore something that's been around for a long time until recently. And, the government sort of money printing and malfeasance has caused that to kind of diminish. So we want to just rekindle that and help reintroduce savings to the world. All right. So, okay, here's one. Is there any trend to burn some tokens of the supply in the future to stabilize the price? So currently, no, there are no plans to burn any RFUEL tokens, except for the tokens that are for the new user incentives. So in our token distribution model, 5% of the tokens are for new user incentives. Now, this is for people downloading RioWallet, the mobile version of the wallet, for the first time. So, we may also give some to the web version wallets. We just need to make sure we have a way to make it so bots don't just, because if someone can just create like 100 wallets and not have any means of identifying who they are, like that's not good for the ecosystem for them to just be able to like create all this RFUEL and get it. Now, with the promotional RFUEL, it cannot be used for transferring to other users, and it cannot be traded. It can only be used to be spent on transaction fees on dApps on RioChain. But that does mean you can use it, for instance, with MantraDAO. Once MantraDAO moves to the mainnet version of RioChain, you'll be able to use that promotional RFUEL for staking OHM or RFUEL through the MantraDAO dApp. So Those promotional tokens are the only tokens that we currently anticipate burning. So at the end of, I think it's January 2026, any remaining promotional tokens will be burnt. But we don't anticipate burning any other tokens. In that sense, though, so our model is inflationary at the beginning, but ultimately deflationary because new tokens stop being minted after 5 years. So our current circulating supply is right around 116 million. I think it's 116,375,000, something like that. So with that, we have a number of those tokens were just minted today for staking rewards, which will be used with the MantraDAO dApp. So we actually already sent 1 million tokens to go into that smart contract to be able to be distributed to those who stake RFUEL through the MantraDAO app. So go ahead and do that if you haven't already. It's a great experience. It's super easy. All you have to do is connect your MetaMask wallet through, if you have the browser extension with Google Chrome or with the Brave browser, you can go use your MetaMask wallet, connect with the MantraDAO dApp. If you have RioFuel in that wallet, then you can go ahead and stake it with MantraDAO to earn 50% APR, which is annual percentage rate. So you can stake that starting today. So we just announced it. We're super happy about that. And we're also working with the MantraDAO team. Obviously, I'm a part of that as well, to create the OHM rewards on top of the RFuEL staking rewards so that you'll also get some OHM in the future. So we haven't unveiled the details of that yet in terms of how much OHM each person will get based on the amount of RFuEL that they've staked, but it is coming. And we are just very happy to have this on-chain staking option because we have had a lot of community members who have asked us to have something that's outside of exchanges. Obviously, we really value our exchange partners and we think they have great staking programs as well. But we know some people just want to fully hold the control of those coins in their own wallet and then just interact with the smart contract directly. So that's what we've made available for people. So there's that. So and as well, you can use a Ledger or a Trezor hardware wallet with the MetaMask wallet to be able to access the MantraDAO dApp. So that's how I personally do it. I hold my RFuEL and my OHM on that I bought off of exchanges on my Ledger or Trezor, and you can stake then through the application. So that's something you should all try out if you haven't already. All right, so it looks like the questions have sort of died down now as we're past the 1 hour mark. So I think I will go ahead and end it here. Thank you all so much for your time this evening. Really appreciate it, and look forward to doing many more of these AMAs in the future. I think it's really great to be able to interact with you guys in this way. And next time, I think what we'll probably do is have some of the other co-founders of RioDeFi join us. So Katerina, Stefan, and perhaps even our president Calvin as well, to join us for answering your questions. And I think we're going to target next Friday for that. So definitely thank you so much for joining us. If you have any more questions, I'll be active in our Telegram group as always. So I pop in there usually at least a couple times a day to be able to answer people's questions and, just keep involved with the community because, it's something that we're all a part of. And I want to make sure we're always delivering value for all of you guys and gals. So thank you so much again for joining us, and look forward to seeing you on the next one. Take care. Oh, be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube so that you can get updated when we have our future updates. Follow us on Twitter and Telegram as well. So it's at RioDeFi Official. So just across the channels, that's our tag. Make sure to follow us. And if you have any more questions, shoot them to our Telegram group. Thank you so much. Take care. Good night.